So Southern California, Los Angeles, as everybody knows, because there's been so much coverage on it, has been going through a lot of wildfires. And I thought that I would share with you what my experience has been as somebody who has not been directly affected, but has been living in the city of Los Angeles, because I feel like the majority of coverage is coming from people who have lost their homes, sadly, have been evacuated, and I'm somebody who's been like right in the heart of it, but have stayed safe, thankfully. So I stepped outside of my apartment. I think this was on like the second day that it was happening, and took a couple of photos in the neighborhood so you can kind of see that the fires were off in the distance, but definitely in the air. But I was far enough away from them that I still felt somewhat safe. The Eaton fire is the one that I'm closest to. I did get an evacuation warning, but never got evacuated. The evacuation warning, I think, was the warning that went out to everyone that was not like an actual warning, but was a mistake that somebody sent. But that still nonetheless like had me go through the traumatic events of, okay, what am I gonna take? What am I gonna leave behind? You know, I wrote myself a list of everything that I would take with me, which when something like that happens, it's interesting to start processing through the items that you own, what is really meaningful to you. And what was interesting for me was that my list consisted of taking cash, obviously, so I had cash on hand, taking my cameras, taking my lights, and I have a to-go bag because I live in earthquake country, so I just always have a bag that has like enough clothing and basic necessities for about 4 days to a week. So it was basically, yeah, like my computer, my cameras, my lights, and my to-go bag, and some cash. And everything else, I was like, wow, that's all pretty replaceable. But I'm a minimalist. I don't own that much, and I'm not really attached to material items. So I've learned the lesson for myself that it would be, for me, pretty easy to walk away. And one of those reasons also is, as a photographer, I store all of my images through Dropbox. Great service. If you don't do that, I highly recommend it. I back up all of my images onto a hard drive and then a second backup onto Dropbox. So all of my memories, like pictures of family, pictures of friends, all of my assignments that I've ever done are in the cloud. So that wasn't something that I had to worry about, thankfully. The winds were scary. The first and second nights I wasn't able to sleep. I couldn't sleep in my bed because my bed is right up against a window, which reminded me that I probably shouldn't do that since I do live in earthquake country. But it felt like a little mini hurricane. I was in Hurricane Andrew when that happened in Florida, and it felt very similar. It felt very, very similar. A lot of trees in my neighborhood, which I love the trees. A lot of the trees were uprooted, unfortunately, and came down. A lot of the power lines came down. I lost power twice. I've so far lost my internet 3 times. It went down again last night. And shingles from people's roofs were flying all over the place. So it felt like a little mini hurricane. So even though I felt like I was an okay distance from the fires, I think I was about, I say I was, but the fire is still going on. I'm about 7 miles from the Eaton fire, to give some context. Here's a quick map so you can see where I am in reference to the 3 fires that are going on, but the 2 big ones are Eaton and the Pacific Palisades. I used to live in a house in Pasadena when I first lived here in Los Angeles, and I've looked on the maps and I'm pretty sure that that house is gone. This last year in 2024, I lost my cat Simon, who's been with me for 19 going on 20 years. And I always saw him as my little angel because I found him crying in the bushes in front of a church in Pasadena, and then he followed me home to the house that I lived in. So many of my memories of him from when he was a young kitten were in that house. And I'm pretty sure that that church is also gone. Because I don't still live in that house, I can't go to the area and see, and I'm I just am staying away from the fire areas because I want to leave the roads clear for emergency vehicles, people who do still live in the houses to be able to come and go. Sorry, there's a loud car going by, or motorcycle, but I think that's also something to think about, is the people that live in Los Angeles who are not directly affected right now. Many of us in Los Angeles are renters, and we've lived in multiple areas, and so we have memories in these places. Like, I lived in Pasadena off of Lake Street, just south of Altadena, like 2 blocks south of Altadena. And I have a ton of memories from that area. I've been talking to friends who lost their childhood homes, friends who are, getting evacuated, friends who are getting evacuation warnings. So I feel like everyone who's in Los Angeles, whether they're directly affected or not, are kind of in a bit of trauma right now. Like, everyone's experiencing grief and loss and, fear that the winds are going to pick up and get the fires going again. The one thing I've noticed on social media is that it's very evident people's trauma responses. Like, everyone responds either with fight, flight, or freeze, right? That's kind of, you have one of those 3 as a human. And I feel like the people who are the fighters, you really see those people. They're the ones that are like coming on social media, like pointing the fingers, like, what happened? I want answers. Tell me right now. Those are the fighters. The flight people are the people that, like, without even getting an evacuation warning, they're like, I'm out. I'm leaving. I'm not staying in Los Angeles. I'll come back in a few weeks. That's the flight responders. I have been the freeze responder. I've been the one that's like, I'm just staying put, but I've been kind of frozen, like, on social media, just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, just like in freeze mode of like, oh my God, this is intense. I used to be more of the flight response, but I've learned over time, for me personally, that being reactionary never heeds good results. So over time, I've learned to have more of the freeze response, where I like freeze until I have all of the information and then move forward. Not that any of the responses are better than the others. That's just my response. So that's kind of what it has felt like for somebody living in Los Angeles that's not directly affected. The population of Los Angeles is, I think, right now 3.8 million. For some reason, Wikipedia says 12 million, but everything else I look at says 3.8, so we'll go with that. And I think they're saying that like approximately 200,000 people have been evacuated, so that's like 5% of the city that have been evacuated and potentially lost their homes. So 95% of the people are like me, where we have memories of things that we've lost, but we've not been directly affected ourselves. I have been trying to think of how I can help, and my first thought was like, okay, I'll donate clothes, but thankfully all of the charities and places that were accepting donations have received so many donations that they don't need anymore, which is amazing. The one thing that I've found that I can do is put a link in this video to the one place that I would donate to. Like if I could recommend a place to donate to if you want to help and don't know what to do, which is Pasadena Humane. It is an animal organization that, there are only 3 animal organizations that have been given authority or the ability to go into the burn areas and find animals that are still alive and like need assistance. And they are one of them, and they're taking them back to their shelters. They're doing all the veterinary care that is needed for the animals. free of charge, and that is all happening by people's donations. They're feeding the animals, housing the animals, and trying to find the homes of the guardians of the animals who had to flee. So I'm going to put a link to that organization if you'd like to donate to them. I would have loved to have started a YouTube fundraiser, but you have to have 10,000 subscribers to do that on YouTube, and I don't. So I'm just doing a link right now. If you subscribe to this channel, that can help me get there so I can do things like that on YouTube. I haven't crossed that threshold, so I just can't. Yeah, so that is kind of what it's like for us here in Los Angeles right now. I am going to end this video with a huge thanks to all of the firefighters and first responders and the people helping the animals. I feel like the people who are the fighters that are pointing the fingers, I would love to see that energy turned towards giving thanks to the people that are risking their lives and doing their best to put out these fires so that no more people are affected. I don't know if that was grammatically correct, but yeah, I really want to thank all of the people that are trying to put out the fires, because they're not going to be put out naturally, not in this dry climate and with this wind. So thank you to all of the firefighters and first responders, and if you're able to donate to Pasadena Humane, that would be amazing, and thank you for watching this video.